Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Wednesday show. Did you guys notice we have a lot of people in chat already? People are on time.
Right? We got a party.
Pleasantly surprised. I love our people in chat. Keyverdam, hello, sweetie. Mash is out there. K-Shoal. I kind of pre-scrolled about this, so I'm not going to be trying to figure out who's there as much as I usually do. I kind of cheated a little bit. Cynic is out there. JB. Cawson, OG. So we have a bunch of people already in the show, and I appreciate that. I'm glad you guys showed up because we love the people in chat. Terry, how you doing?
Not bad. How about you?
I'm well. I actually was awake this time, so my voice isn't nearly as sexy as it normally is. Jen, how are you doing?
I am exhausted. I had a whole day off. And I slept in, and I thought, oh, I'd be good. But, you know, it's all, I blame it on Christmas. Because even though Christmas is over, it's not over until the month is over and everybody else is broke. Well, they had to go home.
I don't consider Christmas over until all of my neighbors have taken down their Christmas decorations.
I think January 6th is like the official end of Christmas.
Is it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just gonna keep celebrating until everyone takes their lights down.
It's the 12 days of Christmas. It starts at Christmas, goes for 12 days, and I think that puts the end of it at January 6th.
Yeah.
All I gotta say is everybody's like, yeah, you gotta work a year in retail or a year in customer service, and I'm like, no, just stick them in for Christmas.
What is
legit?
What is the 12th day of Christmas? Is that how many lords are leaping, or what is? Do you guys know? Once it gets past 5 golden rings, nobody knows the words anymore.
Yeah, pretty much.
They do, but I have to really sit there and try to focus on it because I've been trying to X-nay on the Christmas songs, but like
the 7 lords are leaping, right?
I think it might be 7 geese are laying. I don't know.
Ladies milking, lords are leaping.
There's a lot of birds. There's trees.
Yeah.
And a partridge in a pear tree. I know that one. The easy one. There was a whatchamacallit. There was a it's got to be fairly.
Turtle doves and a partridge. Yeah, like half the song is birds.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. You know, birds, eggs, food. Yeah.
There was I don't know if it was done live on stage or if it was a recording or what it was, but I had the music. I can't play it because it's copyrighted, but it was the 12, not the 12 days of Christmas, the 12 horrors of Christmas or something like that. And it was hilarious. It was with a lot of old school comedians, Lucille Ball, that era of people. Who's the girl who used to tug on her ear? The female comedian.
I don't know. No idea.
I can't remember her name, but that whole era of people who were comedians at the time, and it was all about like a guy. One of the things was guys trying to get the lights to work. One goes out, they all go out. You know, fine. You want to do the lights, you do the lights. You know, he gets all pissed during the thing, and it's. I have to find. I'm sure there's a link out on YouTube for you to be able to listen to it. I don't know if there's really a video associated with it, but I'll see if I can track it down while you guys are talking, and I'll throw it in chat. So
can you put the rest of the days of Christmas in chat? So 6 geese are laying, 7 swans are swimming, 8 maids are milking, 9 ladies dancing, 10 lords are leaping, 11 pipers piping, and 12 drummers drumming.
Mm-hmm. But I gotta call out the initial gift, because the initial gift is technically giving you a bonus gift. It's like a 13th gift that they're not telling you about. Because it's a pear tree and a partridge.
Partridge in a pear tree. So you get the pear tree and the partridge too.
Yeah, so it's a double
pear tree and a partridge.
So it's a double gift. It's legit a double gift.
I know the band Twisted Sister had the 12 Days of Metal on their Christmas album. And they replaced all the things with like heavy metal references, like a tattoo of Ozzy Osbourne and spandex pants and all sorts of like silly things like that.
the 12 Pains of Christmas. Pain.
Ah.
And it's yeah. I found the link on YouTube. Oops. That didn't come through, did it? I started playing it. Let me go ahead and put it in chat so people can enjoy it. It's extremely funny. It might be a little bit funnier for me because I can. There's a certain amount of.
Okay, so
because I'm old.
That KVDM already posted it.
Yeah,
It's
she
the
was
same
faster
link.
than me. Yeah, it doesn't look like there's a video with it. It's just text. So, but if you want to listen to that, it's pretty funny. But like I said, there's a little bit of nostalgia because it's more for us oldies.
Right.
The young people aren't going to recognize any of the people who are in it. I recognize everybody in it.
Kev is saying 5 months of builds.
Yeah,
I'm guessing that's from the song.
No, actually, it's not. Well, yes, it is in a way. It's not directly that, but he does mention that.
Okay.
He does mention that it's going to take a long time to pay everything off. Yeah. I first heard it at my uncle's and his girlfriend's house back in 2013. Yeah. But it was done like in 1980 something or something. That's really
But
old.
it's crazy to think that 2013 was a decade ago.
Yeah.
It really is.
Almost.
And
yeah.
it's yeah. God, that's gonna end, and I don't want to jinx it because I don't want to jinx it. Let's not jinx it. Let's not test it. Don't test it. It's gonna get worse.
You know what's coming up, right? Today's the 28th. You know what's coming up? The 31st. New Year's.
Mm-hmm. I know. And then the year ends and we get to start out over again. And then you get to
I think some silly sod decided to get born around that time, didn't they, Hammer?
Yeah. Some moron. I can't understand why my parents couldn't have waited until January 1st. You know, couldn't she just hold it in? Just concentrate, you know, use those pelvic floor muscles and just hold it in. But no, 11:37 at night. I made it in just in time for a tax break. Wonderful. Yeah, I'll be the big 6-0.
Wow.
In 3 days. Yeah. So.
Yeah, well, congratulations on that.
I made it this far. I made it this far. I don't know how much longer I'm going to make it, but I made it to 60. That's all things considered, not a bad deal.
Yeah.
But I would never have believed it. I'll tell you that. When I was in my 30s, I was like, I'm not going to make it to 60.
I mean, my dad was convinced he wouldn't, and he was 56. Yeah, he died at the age of 60. So he made it, but just. But, so yeah, I mean,
Keyradam's going to sing for me.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
but yeah, my dad was sick from the age of 14, and if you told him he was going to live to be 60, he would not have believed you at any point during the years between him finding out he was sick and him dying. You no, I'm not making it to 60, no chance.
That's tough though. That's admirable.
He actually had the record at the hospital for the longest, most time on dialysis for any living patient at the time.
Yeah. You know, it's one of those things you got to take the positive with the negative. He might not have lived for as long as you would have liked, but hey, he won a record.
No, but he wanted to die. It was voluntary. He voluntarily ended the dialysis to call it quits. So, I mean, he could have probably lived a few extra years if he wanted to stick around, but he didn't.
I think there's this thing where, so I'm not the type of person to push for suicide, especially given where I live, because where I live, they kind of insist on it.
You get an ingrown toenail and they're cutting you off to the euthanasia camp.
But there's also this part of me who's always been of the get-go where if you are terminally ill and you know that your fight is gone, I don't really believe in necessarily fighting with that person to a certain extent. Rather than fighting with them, I'd rather their last moments be just comfortable and happy and good. Because I think I could understand that to a certain degree too. I've never been that sick, but watching people that I love suffer so much, yeah, I can get where you're like, but I can appreciate too that like there's so much fight to do when you're that sick.
Yeah.
You know, so I can't judge the let go either, you know?
It was pretty funny when he told me his decision, because he's like, I think I'm going to stop the dialysis. And my immediate thought was, but you'll die? And it's like, oh, right. That's the point.
Yeah. It's the people they leave behind that end up hurting the most. Like, I mean, you're a dude, so and you've had time, you know, but it doesn't mean that you don't miss him. But I think as a dude, you probably even understand it from his point of view better than I do.
Yeah, no, I mean, I remember like it was about maybe 3 to 6 months after he died. I heard the Cat Stevens song, Father and Son, and that was what finally broke through and got me to just let it all out. Just something about that the line, I know I have to go away. That was it. I was bawling as soon as he sang that line. And like I somehow managed to like keep it in for like 3 to 6 months, and it's just like no, my body was not having it anymore.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to apologize a lot to my grandpa. I already told him that. Like, I cried so hard for BG, and I was just like, man, I'm not even related to her grandpa. I'm super sorry. I mean, I cried for you, but I was more crying for my dad and my aunt than necessarily my grandfather, because I knew him, but I didn't have that deep love for him that I wanted to have. And it's not with regret. It's just it wasn't there. He didn't reach out, and it wasn't in the style of my family to really have me do that. Like, reaching out to my grandfather was done through my parents, you know, my dad. So when he went, it really was more about my dad, because my grandfather's last moments, he was needing my dad and my aunt to be there all the time, especially my aunt. Like, the times that she would visit, he would make her stay over, and he was well aware of the fact that he was going, but I felt more for her than anyone else, just because there were times where she was like, okay, Dad, but I have to go. I have some things, you know, and then she'd have to stay, and it was because he was afraid that she was going to run away. And older people, when they're going, I can appreciate when you're the adult having to do that. Like, my aunt's doing that right now for my grandmother, because she had an accident a couple of years ago. Like, her memory was already kind of going, but the accident took her from I know who you are to who the fuck are you? You know, so she doesn't know who my aunt is anymore. Like, sometimes she remembers who she is, but most of the time she doesn't. But my aunt does it, so I admire her.
My mom was still fairly cognizant, although she was having problems when she was a couple of months away, and she sat down and spoke to me at length about it. She says, you know, I can't see, I can't hear. It's hard for me to interact, you know. So when it's over, I'll be happy. And I was like, okay. So she was not scared. She's a devout Catholic woman. She was looking forward to it.
Yeah. I mean, my dad, he was in a coma for like 3 weeks, and he was heartbroken when he came out of the coma. He was like, why did they save me? Why didn't they just let me die? And that was actually more painful than when he did die, because just having to like spend time with him, and just the you know, the lack of any will to live was just, that was hard to see.
Yeah.
I feel like we went so morbid, and I don't know why. I might have started something, and I don't know. But
didn't we start with the 12 days of Christmas? That was a nice thing.
Yeah,
it was a very
12
nice
days
thing.
of dead family members.
Oh no. Well, we have our topics to talk about. We probably should cover that. First one is Vice. I don't know. I think we talked quickly before the stream that you guys hadn't seen this. This was Vice has a channel where they have debates, where they talk about issues, and they got together a bunch of women to talk about feminism and whether feminism was still relevant and all that kind of stuff. And two of the people on the panel were Sydney Watson and Just Pearly Things. I don't know if you've been exposed to either channel. I imagine there's plenty of people out there who've seen Sydney's stuff. But sure, Just Pearly Things is spending a lot of time on shorts. She has long format.
I refuse to watch them.
She has a podcast, long format, but her shorts are pretty compact and poignant.
I refuse to watch the YouTube shorts. They're just too short. There's no way to fit decent content in there.
Yeah, she was definitely on the far end of the argument. She is very red-pilled, and she was saying stuff that everybody, even Sydney to some extent, was raising eyebrows about how far she was, But if you look at the comment section from the video, her and Sydney got most of the praise on the Vice comments section. I expected a lot of lefties, but it was just like, Sydney was right. Sydney was right. Pearly was right. Sydney was right. Sydney was right. It was like, holy crap! Wow. This is not the typical comments I see on the Vice comment section.
No, I would have expected these bigots. Why are you platforming hate?
Right.
All the usual nonsense.
Interesting stuff. It was like, I guess 10 people, or eight or 9 or 10. I really didn't count heads, but there was a significant amount of people there. But the only two people that were accomplished or noted on YouTube were Pearl and Sydney. So when it came turn for them to speak, they were practiced and professional and had all the facts behind them. They were clear, eloquent, and to the point. And they made everyone else look really, really dumb. And maybe that's the reason why the comment sections ended that way. But I've only recently found Pearl. And I think her channel is Pearly Things, PearlyThingz for you guys. And she was, and her channel is called Just Pearly Things. If you're looking for it on YouTube. And it's a podcast plus shorts, which are just excerpts from the podcast. And she is more red-pilled than I think I am. And I'm, being who I am, you'd think I'm pretty far over. But she says some things I think to myself, how are you still on the air saying such things? She's like, all the people were talking, and they came around for her to have her first talk, and she says, oh, you guys aren't oppressed. You guys aren't, you're actually acting superior. And who do you think you are? And I was like, holy shit, she's going right after these women, like out of nowhere. I was like, I expected all 10 of them to just turn around and jump her and knock her on the ground. But she just made it a point. She asked a question. It's probably the highlight of the entire thing for me. She says, how she didn't use the word oppressed. She said, how are you, I think the idea was, how are you prevented from getting what you want?
Yeah, exactly.
And everyone just kind of stopped and looked at her. Nobody answered. And then one of the people that was on there started attacking her directly. That's a silly thing for you. Yeah, that's a silly thing for you to ask. Why do you ask such silly questions? That's not really pertinent to what we're... And Sydney said, this is the reason why feminism fails. You talk about empowering women. Here's a woman asking a legitimate question. And instead of answering the question, you turn on the other female. She says, that's not feminism. And everyone just kind of got quiet real quick. It was really a poignant part of the show.
But also, they know that they don't have an answer to the question.
Nobody answered it.
Yeah, like the alternative would be to admit that Pearl was right. And they're never going to do that. So the only thing left open to them is baseless personal attacks.
Yeah. And that's exactly what happened. As a matter of fact, as Sydney was talking about this, one of them just started laughing loudly over top of her. And Sydney just pointed at her, like, see what I mean? So
I'm going to have to watch this.
You should watch it. You should both watch it.
I found it on Sydney's Twitter, so I'll check it out after the stream.
Yeah, well, I can, while we're talking about it, let me go ahead and jump out and I'll go to the Vice YouTube channel and get a link for you. Vice.
It's actually I'm not sure who shared this video, if it was on the AAA or I caught it with Monkey or something, because he did a stream earlier too. But there was this video of and it was one of those ones where somebody is videotaping somebody at work, you know, because they think they've offended them, and it was about this trans homeless person who was taking up residence at a Good Life, and the management had kicked them out several times and terminated their account because that's against the rules. They're not allowed to use gyms as a place of residence. It's not what they're for. And the guy was trans, and so he was like, I'm going to ruin this guy's life by ruining his job. And guy just completely owned him, because he's like, I don't give a shit that you're gay. I think you're weird because everything that you're doing right now is fucking weird. And that's the thing that they don't understand, is these women who are talking like that, they come across as crazy people. So nobody has any respect for the left because they respond with crazy.
Yep.
Yeah, this is true.
It's all that is what the response is. It's a response to people who have no rational thought past their victim status.
They're headline people. You know, they see someone say something and they don't look into the depths of it. They just see that headline and say, okay, I'm going to run with that.
Yeah.
And another thing about this is that these people, Sydney and Watson, it was 9 people total. Sydney and Pearl were the only ones that seemed to be speaking any sense. Everybody else would try to confuse the subject matter as much as possible. So if they ask a question that was strict feminism, a black person will say, as a black feminist, you know, I don't see why black isn't included in black, blah, blah, black. And there's a disabled person on there. And as soon as they ask a question, she says, well, as a disabled person, they immediately brought in other things instead of just talking about men and women and feminism. They wanted to conflate. They wanted to be intersectional and add stuff. And all that does is confuse the topic. And Sydney goes on a rant, actually, for a good minute, saying, you people are not sticking to the topic. She's upset. Pretty powerful.
But the thing is, these people legitimately think, as a black woman or as a disabled trans person or whatever, they think that makes their opinion more valid. That's why they're mentioning it. Like, it's not just a random happenstance. No, they're like, because I have this identity, my opinion is now more valuable, and that is why you need to ignore what the straight white woman over there thinks. She's not important. I'm black. I'm important.
Right.
That's why they're bringing it up.
Well, people were saying that it wasn't fair to bring Sydney and Pearl in because they're practiced on this. They know their shit. So they're going to have all the statistics and all the numbers, and they're prepared. And then these other people are just nobodies that they pull in off the street. And I said, well, first of all, diversity. So I don't want to hear that bullshit, because you have to pull in people off the street to be diverse. So that's an invalid argument. But if these people did do their homework about this topic, then everyone would be agreeing with Pearl and Sydney, because the other side of the argument is invalid. So they can't argue that side because there's no truth to that side.
When has that stopped a feminist? Come on.
No, it doesn't stop feminists. That's what I find the most disheartening about this, is that when you see these kind of videos out there, all it's saying is, and it kind of makes me feel bad. I know this is probably why I get along with Claudia as well as I do, is that it makes women look stupid. Women are not stupid, but feminists make women look stupid because their arguments, they're just stupid arguments. So when they come in all justified and hot, like they know their shit, and then somebody like Sydney and Pearl just completely dismantles everything they're talking about, they look dumb. And that's sad, because women are not dumb, you know, but this puts them in a bad light. It makes, like I said, I half of me is like, go get him, Sid, you know, But the other half is saying, take it easy on them because now they're really looking like assholes. So
No, but I mean, intersectionality is in its nature assuming that the minorities that they claim to represent are useless and stupid. I mean, that's like their basis is like, why do you think they're so convinced that black people can't find the DMV? Because in their mind, black people are so incompetent, they need white people to show them, to help them, to guide them and raise them up. Black people on their own, they can't do anything. They're black. No. Us white people, we need to help them with very basic life skills like getting a license.
I have a meme on my phone where I have a meme on my phone and it's a white person holding their hand over a black person and they're saying, "Don't worry, I'll handle this."
Yes, exactly.
Go ahead, Jen.
Well, it's just it's probably because I have these conversations on Pat streams so often that I kind of get it a little bit more now. Mostly because it's always some other person of color speaking for every other person of color, or it's always some woman speaking for every other woman. And now we have men speaking for women too. And it's just like, I don't even know. Like, does it even matter what the feminists think? Because half the feminists don't even know what a woman is anyway.
None of them know what a woman is. None of them can define woman in a non-transphobic way by their own standards.
Well, the people who were on the panel, they had a disabled woman who celebrated aborting fetuses. She thought it was the greatest thing ever. They had a person who apparently was not born here, but moved here, who was a true violent, radical feminist that was, kill all men kind of woman. And then they had a trans person who couldn't have been more than 80 pounds, short white hair, but feminine enough looking. I wouldn't have known that they were trans. I would assume that they were female. And then they had a scattering of other people who were just kind of like normies. And to watch the dynamic between these people speaking, it got heated quite a few times. Even in the edited version, it got very heated. Vice has not released the full 3.5 hour version, but Sydney did make several tweets, as you mentioned before, about this. And she specifically said that for as crazy as the feminists look on the edited version, you should see the unedited version. So they edited it down. She said as far as her and Pearlie were considered, they did not edit it to make them look stupid. They were pretty straightforward. So she didn't feel like she was cheated. But she said...
Credit to them for that then.
Yes. And she said that, credit to them for not doing that. She says, but they kind of were biased in the sense that they cut out all the stuff from the feminists that made them look like they were insane.
Which wouldn't have left much.
I wanna point something out with Keeverdam too, because I know that you were joking with her too, but that is a point. They are making this thing about the definition of what a woman is, but I actually do question whether or not the feminists actually know what it means to be a man. I really do. Because when you come to things like the videos of the trans men who speak on their experiences being a man, they barely know what it means to be a man. I watched this video with Pat where this girl was this trans man and she's crying because she was by herself at a Starbucks and it was stressful and she couldn't handle the stress.
Yeah, I saw that.
And I'm just like, you think that you're behaving like a man? Even boys, 14-year-old boys don't behave like that. And they're stressing and they look like they should be crying and they aren't. They're biting their teeth because they'd like to cry, but they're not because they're fucking men. And maybe that is toxic. Maybe the dude should be allowed to have a tear of frustration because he's frustrated, but we don't accept that kind of behavior. And then you've got these feminists who are like, I'm going to tell men and women what they are.
One of the things that always stands out to me was Nora Vincent when she did her experiment, because she was a feminist and she's convinced men have it so easy. Yep. And she's like, I'm going to pretend to be a man for 2 years, and then I'm going to write a book about what bullshit easy lives they lead. And she couldn't handle being a man at all. And the book took a very different tone. It's like she's like how isolating it is, because a lot of the things, like, women just assume people will be nice to them because most people are a lot nicer to women than they are to men. And when she was posing as a man, no one gave a fuck about her, and she couldn't deal with that because, you know, it was a culture shock after like 40 years of being treated as a woman. Suddenly, no one's paying attention to her. No one gives two shits what she does. She struggled with massive amounts of depression and self-harm, and it fucked her up.
There was
she
a
killed
woman
herself.
who did the same thing and killed herself. Yeah, is that the same person?
Yeah,
think
she
so.
did eventually kill herself.
It's tough being a guy. Women don't realize, and that's something that's maybe a little bit controversial. I just don't think a woman can ever really understand what it is to be a man, nor can a man ever really understand what it is to be a woman. You have to be that thing to understand that thing.
No, we can only
all you've got to do is pretend that you've got a period next time you get a stomach cramp.
It's simple as just having enough human capacity to understand when we are both struggling, and at best that might be all it is. But yeah, I listen, it's something as simple as say comparing cramps to a guy being hit in the dick. I don't think that anymore. I actually think it's more like, say, the kid who was sitting, on the floor, who rolled over and unintentionally pinched a ball. I think a cramp is like that, because I remember the expression on the kid's face, and I remember how I felt, because I felt like rolling over and puking, and that's how he looked. He looked like he kind of wanted to roll over and puke. So when I compare pain, no, I don't know that's what he experienced, but I can imagine it was probably similar, because the capacity to read each other's expression is maybe where we have it, but it's enough. It's enough to understand that, yeah, I'm not going to understand what it's like to be kicked in the dick, but I understand that pain sucks. And there's a level where you can understand sympathy. And it might not be something that I can level with a ruler or something, but I can understand it's enough pain to be sympathetic.
Right.
Just to be precise, getting kicked in the dick really doesn't hurt. It's getting kicked in the balls that hurts. Just to be technical. Okay. Just being technical.
I just know that I saw that kid. Like we all had to sit TP style. I don't know how you guys do it in the US or in Australia. And I'm probably not even supposed to call it TP style. Cross it. Okay. But yeah. But that kid totally, like, when he went to sit down, I wouldn't even say he rolled. I think he almost slammed on his own balls. And I've never seen a poor, I felt so bad for him. I was about ready to get some like frozen peas from the freezer.
Women talk about how their breasts have a tendency to sag as they get older. Well, testicles do the same thing, and at 60 years old, I have to be careful how quickly I sit down. So if I'm doing something and I'm just wearing a pair of, like pajama bottoms, like I had to, for some reason, came out of the shower and it's like, oh, I gotta do this. I just throw on pajama bottoms, not underwear. Underwear keeps the jewels closer to your skin. If I'm just in pajama bottoms and I sit down too quickly, oh boy, that wakes you up real quick.
Bet it.
It does.
Fortunately, I've not reached that level.
It's going to happen. It happens to all of us.
Oh, of course. But I'm not there yet, which is good.
But when I was younger, I did get kicked in the balls by a girl, because women are taught early, if you want to defeat a guy, the easiest way to do is to kick him in the balls. They don't realize that you're messing with the ability of that person to have children later in life. They think it's a joke. Women think it's a big joke. We'll kick him in the balls. Look at him jump. Oh, look at. Yeah, but what you're doing is potentially making that guy sterile. Think about that next time you think about kicking him in the balls. In any case, it put me down, and it put me on the ground, and I did vomit.
See, and that's kind of where I was going with my pain meter. Like, I can't know what that's like. I can't. But I do know that the worst cramps I've ever had me on the floor wanting to puke. Yeah. So I don't know if it's the same, but I don't doubt that there's moments where it could reach the similar pain.
There's no way I'm going to know what it's like to be a woman having cramps, because I'll never have a uterus.
Exactly. Like, the only thing you have to go by is the expression of pain. And like, do I think I looked like I was in that much pain when I had that? No. But here's the thing, though. The only reason I ever was taught to really kick a guy in the gonads was because it's a kill shot. Because there is a good chance that if you kick the guy in the right spot, it can cause him to have a heart attack too.
I can understand, like, if you're being attacked, and that is a perfectly valid way to defend yourself, is go straight for the nuts, because it will down the aggressor if you can get a decent kick in. But yeah, don't just do it for fun.
No, it's like my grandfather used to say, well, if you encounter a cougar, and in all honesty, I don't know if I'd manage with a cougar anyway. But he said, yeah, you kind of want to go for the nose. You really want to hit them in the nose because their nose is super sensitive. Like they smell you for miles. And it's not just that it scares them, it hurts. So they can't smell you anymore. You know, and if you can get another shot to the throat, do that too. But like that's kind of where my thinking was when it came to genitalia hits. Like, yeah, don't do that unless you know that you're really needing to get at it.
Right. I hear the same about sharks. If you can punch underwater, which is incredibly difficult, but if you can, punching a shark in the nose is apparently a decent way to get it to leave you alone, and helps you survive.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it was if you get a chance to watch the Vice channel, watch that episode. It's very interesting. It's very engaging. For me, it was difficult to maintain my temper. I wanted to scream a couple of times at some of these women and what they were saying. And that one woman on the far right side, kind of attractive, pale, dark, straight skin, that didn't appear to be born in the States, but spoke perfect English, and was talking about how feminism was internationally. She just outright yelled at Pearl directly. God. Yeah, she was just, I was like, is she going to get up and punch her? Because that's what it looked like she was going to do. She looked like she was going to be violent.
Mm-hmm.
And that why, something about Pearl's appearance just annoys me. I don't know, like there's something about her face that just I don't like. It's weird. I can't even explain it. That
nothing against her. She's not an ugly girl. I mean, personally, I think there was, of the panel, the girl on the right that I was talking about earlier, the one next to her, was very, very pretty. And of course, okay. I've always had kind of a thing for Sydney because she's tall.
Right.
But Pearl is probably the third most attractive there. And there's something about Pearl, something about her face that kind of reminds me, I don't think it's true. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to criticize her looks or anything like that. But there's certain kind of something about the way her eyes are set that looks kind of Down syndrome.
Mm.
I don't know what it is, but it just looks kind of off on that kind of stuff.
There's something about her that just doesn't sit well with me. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but yeah.
So, but I like what she says. I mean, she's more red pilled than I am, and that's pretty hard to find that quality in a woman. So, anyway,
well, I'm actually kind of surprised that Vice is still around anyway, just because it's not just Vice. Like I am getting this one
their staff.
It's not just Vice. It looks like everybody across the board took a hit. Like I'm getting this one. I think it's either from Josiah or from Clownfish. It was probably Clownfish, but Hollywood alone took a $500 billion hit.
Yeah. Vox fired a bunch of people. Breitbart fired a bunch of people. A lot of people are firing a lot of people from tech.
And I think it's warranted. It's not just that they've lost money. They've lost faith in the public, period. Both ways. It doesn't matter what side you're on. There's, in all honesty, people think that the left just buys up everything that they get from CNN, and they do. They think it's the truth, but at the same time, it's the truth that they can sway with. That's the thing with liars, is if you know that you can get a story from a liar, you can change the story. It's already a lie, so why not? So they don't necessarily trust it either. They know it's garbage. They have their own sources that they go to, but even still, they know it's garbage. It's just the same as the stuff that I read half the time. I'm like, I bet you anything, half of this is true and half of it's garbage. So Yeah, I could see that. So like your entertainment is garbage, your news is garbage. What's left to do other than argue on Twitter?
It's funny how Twitter is becoming the de facto standard for where news is coming from, because CNN and even Fox News, it seems like everybody who's in the news business is falling to Twitter. More people are watching Twitter for news than they are the old mainstream media.
It's because we're all aware that they're owned by the same people. You know, it's up here. It doesn't matter if they were owned by the same people because they're all getting money from the government, which means my tax dollars are paying for people to lie to me. So I automatically don't trust them anyway. But yours comes from one narrative, and it's the same narrative. Even Fox, which is supposed to be the conservative Republican news site, is owned and run by a Democrat. And they are barely Republican.
They're barely conservative. The only people conservative on that channel are Tucker and Hannity. That's it. Everyone else is not.
And even Tucker is a libertarian.
Right.
So when they say things like, oh, the conservatives everywhere, like that's why we're propped up, and not necessarily us. We're a small channel. I'm being a little bit arrogant because I'm even new to this channel to begin with. But the conservatives online get propped up because we're superstars at this point. There's none of us. You guys have basically taken over everything. So everybody's looking for the alternative news. They come to us.
Yeah.
Or people like us. And we desperately look for news outside of you because it's the same narrative. When you have the same narrative everywhere, people can tell that you don't know what's going on either.
I've gone to CNN to look at topics for the channel for, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 months. And I think of 4 or 5 months of doing shows looking at CNN, I don't think I've ever pulled a topic off of CNN to talk about because they just don't have anything that's even remotely interesting.
No,
the last time I listened to CNN, it was because Lords of the Night made it funny.
Oh, right, yeah. Did you see Libs of TikTok did a face reveal on
oh,
Tucker?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's cute.
I mean, I think she's kind of pretty, but everyone on the left is, oh, look how ugly she is. And everyone on the right is, oh my God, she's gorgeous. And it's like,
she's not.
Still on both sides.
She's somewhere in between.
On that note, this is very much a side topic, but I found this out in passing on Pat's stream. But, and I only remembered this because I said cute, but Viper's Sword is getting married. And I just wanted to say yet again, and I know she's not here, but that's super cute, Viper's Sword. I'm happy for you. I am actually.
The only thing I know about Viper is, one, she has a cat with the same name as the cat I used to have, which is Mix, and that she hates being called cute for whatever reason.
I know.
That's it. That's everything I know about Viper.
I think I've seen pictures of her. She's an attractive girl, isn't she? Isn't her boyfriend or husband kind of not like Chad?
I don't know.
I think she's cute. I mean, I know she's not. She's of the girl set of, I'm not a supermodel, therefore I'm not cute. And I think it's like, no, darling, you are cute, and your personality makes you super adorable. So don't worry about it. But I'm more happy that she's found happiness, and I know her mostly through the odd stream, but it's also just because when Sean died last year, I managed to get a giggle out of her. You know, it's not often that I get a chance to cheer somebody up because my sense of humor is weird, but you know, so yeah, I was happy to see that she had a little bit more happiness coming to her this year coming up, you know. But yeah, that was my sneak news. This
is not the person I was thinking of. The person I was thinking of is not Viper Sword. Must be somebody else.
No.
The one.
I think she's cute.
The person I'm thinking of is much more Latina, with darker skin and long hair, black.
No.
This is
different
not the
person.
same. Yeah, it's a different person. It's not the same person. Anyway.
No, she's a cute. She's got brown hair. She's a cute little. She's a cute Brit. She's
British?
an English girl. She's cute. Oh yeah. Yeah, she's a cute English girl. Yeah, she's cute. She got freckles and yeah.
Where does Viper Sword come from? Is she a gamer girl kind of person?
I am not going to call on that one. I would actually ask Spud Gun on that one because I'm saying this through rumor because I thought she said she was from maybe the northern end of England, but I don't want to quote on that because that can get you into trouble.
I'm sure Spud has the 411 for us. Hey, Johnny Hellcat, our Thursday night hostess in chat.
And she likes Horsecock. No, she does not like that song, but I love watching her reaction to it, and she knows it too. Oh, that poor girl. But
I'm thinking of another somebody, but I can't think of the person's name. But I think she's on Twitter. Viper on Twitter. Maybe it's just Viper, the person I'm thinking of. Images.
Yeah, she's in the north of England. Okay. Lisa knew. See, I wasn't wrong. I just didn't, like I said, there's so many people that I know from England that I'm learning your map a lot. You know, if I ever go to visit, I'll be one up on where I was like 5 years ago by a long shot. I now actually have a list of things I want to see in depth, because the one time I went was on I did go on a European tour, you know? And I spent all of about 8 days in Italy and France and Switzerland. And Switzerland, don't go to Switzerland. They hate everybody. Just go there if you want to see mountains. It's pretty, but they hate everybody. The French might forgive you if you give them money and you're nice. And then the 1.5 days that I spent in England, and I was like, could we do this in reverse next time, Mom?
The French were nothing but nice to me when I went. And I think it's because I made a token effort to speak French, in as much as I asked in French, do you speak English? And I think they just appreciated that I didn't go, hello, I would like to buy a Coke, please.
That was my impression too, in all honesty. They just wanted to do their work and go home kind of mentality.
Is there anybody who doesn't like Australians, really?
Kiwis.
Oh, well, yeah, but I mean, that's brother and sister shit. But I mean, as far as the rest of the real world, places that actually exist on the map. I mean, you can go to Canada, America, most of Europe, and they'll be like, oh, you're an Aussie. Hey, mate. That's the first thing they're going to do to you. So, I mean, everybody has an Aussie that they can pull out of their hat to make fun of you or joke with you. But
I don't think there's anywhere that hates Australia.
Plenty of places hate America, that's for sure.
But that's also because America is a lot bigger and like
arrogant.
You can easily ignore Australia, and then like once every now and then, oh hey, an Australian, and it's like, oh cool. Whereas Americans, they're very populous. There's a lot of them, and when they travel, you tend to notice them.
We're like a disease. We're like a growth that can't be stopped.
That's one way of looking at it, I suppose.
What was Eddie Izzard used to say? If you ever travel internationally, just tell everybody you're Canadian.
Yeah.
That immediately absolves you, because the French will love you to some extent because you kind of have part of their culture in your culture, So most of Europe will give you a pass. But if you just say, howdy, ma'am, they were like, oh, an American. What do we want with those people over here?
Yeah, no, I mean, I've heard a lot of Americans do pretend to be Canadian just to get better service. So,
well, just not to get bad service more than anything else. But
well,
I don't know. I've always said I wanted to go to Scotland. That's always Scotland and Australia are my. If I was ever to travel, if I was ever to get in good enough health where I could travel internationally, I mean, I think I'm getting to the point now where I can travel domestically. My health is good enough for that. I don't know about it. But if I was ever to get to a point where I felt confident to go international and I could save up the money to do it, I would definitely hit Scotland, and I would definitely hit Australia. I mean, I really want to, if somebody said, cost is not an issue, pick one and I'll send you there, I would say Australia first. But there's something about, I would like to spend like 2 or 3 days in Glasgow and then another 2 or 3 days in Edinburgh, just to soak up the Scottish culture a little bit, and then, have a beer with.
Who would you want to meet in Scotland? Obviously tailed.
Absolutely tailed. No. Not really.
Because I mean, I
maybe
know
Dankula.
Oh yeah, Dankula. Okay.
Maybe.
Because I know several Australians. So,
opinionated Scotsman, maybe.
Yeah.
So
Critical Drinker, if you could convince him to.
Right. Critical Drinker.
Talk to you.
Now get out of here.
Mhm.
Well,
Go away now.
Go away now. Get you.
Well, there's lots of places that I'd like to go. Like, definitely the UK is on the list, because the nice thing about the UK is there's several places in that area that I could go visit at the same time. I mean, it's not cheap, but it makes sense to plan it that way.
Mhm.
But in terms of like crazy places that I'd like to go, like in terms of danger level, I don't know why, but I do kind of want to go to either Herculean or Pompeii. And there's this weird fear because I don't like seafood, which I know is what's going to be there because it's a fucking island. And B, I'm not a big fan of wine. And I'm like, well, that's kind of why they keep living there. It's a volcano. They make really good wine there. But I really want to see it. And it's not to see the dead people. It's more to just see how they lived. Like I love history. And I love history that's so clearly still there. And I know it's not going to be there forever. It's going to be that one thing. If I don't see it, guaranteed 10 years, 20 years from now, something will happen. It'll be gone. You know, it's like those times when you think about the giant Buddhas. And yeah, I didn't want to go see the giant Buddhas because the Muslims in that area, not Muslims, but the Muslims in that area are scary. I always knew that. But now I can't see them anymore. They made sure of that. But Italy, on the other hand, safer place. They don't have as much of that problem. You know, I would have to worry about the volcano though. You know, but they aren't the Pompeii and Herculean of the past. You know, they do monitor that shit very much because the city that's under there is vastly bigger. But yeah, I'd like to go see that.
If you had to pick between my two choices, where would you go?
Australia.
Thanks, Terry. Jen, if you had to pick between Scotland and Australia, what would be your pick?
Oh, that's a hard one. I don't even think I could pick, because the other thing too is like I've got family in Scotland, so I would want to go to see Scotland. But you know, I want to see Australia because I had family that went to Australia too.
Yeah. I think Australia would be the pull for me, and the reason why I want to go first is because it is such a different place than America. I mean, there's a lot of things that we can have in common. You know, during our summers, it gets pretty hot. You know, not like Australia. And we do have areas in the United States where it's kind of barren. So there is some similarities and stuff like that. But the culture is so much different. I just feel like I could assimilate pretty easily into Scotland, but I think I would just never be able to be in anything but a certain amount of awe just hanging around in Australia. I just think it's I don't know. I don't agree with their gun laws. There's a lot of things about the area that I would not put over the United States. I want to stay here. I don't want to ever go anywhere else permanently. But if someone said, well, you have to leave the States, where are you going to go? It would be hands down. I'd go to Australia. I'd love to go there. I just like the people. I like a lot about it. I'm not a person for heat. You know, I was fat at one time in my life, so I have a very big disdain for heat. And Australia is not a winner for me, and that's why I really don't have any problems with living in Pennsylvania, because it was -7 the other night, and I had no problems with that. It was cold. You know, bundle up, you're okay, no big deal. And you really can't do that when it's too hot. You can only take off so many clothes before you're naked. Now,
Right.
and now you're having to depend on air conditioning or something like that, or architecture to try to keep you from dying from heat. So if I had the choice between the two of them, I'd rather be cold because I can always get warmer. My body generates heat, so it's a win. But I think if somebody said, you know, gun to the head, you're leaving the States, where are you going? Yeah, I mean, Canada would probably be better as far as my ability to withstand temperatures, but yeah, I think I'd probably go Australia. I know a lot of people. There must be a reason why I know so many people in Australia. There's something about that. I don't know what it is, but I have a certain, you know, there's Far, Khyber, Claudia, Bering, Terry. I mean, you sit there and just start naming off my fingers. I get into like, all right, now where's my 11th finger? You know, pretty quick.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I
not
thought
that anybody would want to meet me, but I would definitely want to meet them.
I want to meet you.
I don't think Claudia would want to.
Oh, she would not.
Not sure.
Oh, I thought Pompeii and Herculean were on a separate island. Like it's, or maybe it's just my opinion of what an island is, and Spud Gun's opinion what an island is different, because I don't remember it being on the shoe. I thought it was like a separate piece. You know, because sometimes I tell English people from England that they're on an island, and I don't mean to, because when you compare Canada or like even Australia, it does appear to be like an island. I know it's not. I know it's technically a little continent, but I'm being a dick when I do it, and I don't mean to be. I got to stop using the globe as my map, you know?
I slightly horrified an English friend of mine years ago because I was telling her about my trip to Tenerife, and I described it as a small island. And she's like, "No, it's not. It's big." I was like, "Really?"
Have you seen Australia on the map?
Yeah, exactly.
That's a big island.
I mean, I saw the whole thing in a day. It can't be that big.
Like, I think that's the problem, is my definition of an island and other, like, I know it's different. I know there's different terminologies. I'm definitely not a geologist. I would probably make most geologists cry with how I like remember how to say things or remember where they are on the map. But they'd be like, please don't.
I think there's a commonality there with Australia and America too, because you can go around America and see so many places that are not, you would think you were on a different continent, because there's places in America that just aren't like each other in any real way. I mean, we're all Americans, but I think Australia is like that too, because if you go to Perth and then Tanzania and then Victoria and Sydney, you're seeing 4 distinct separate cultures there. You know, if you go to Dallas, Texas, and then you go to California, and then you go to New York, and then you go to Boston, you almost can't understand each other. We're all speaking English. We're all speaking American. We're not, none of us are speaking English. We're all speaking American. But
American.
Yeah, American. But I mean, you get the stoner out, and not that stoners don't exist everywhere, but they're proliferating in California. You get the guy who's stoner out there, then you get the twang of you know, Tennessee, and then, you know, New York, and then, you know, Philadelphia, yo Adrian, and then you go to Boston. I mean, just the differences between some states is pretty dramatic, and I think Australia kind of fits that too. Not that Canada doesn't. I mean, you have a whole province that doesn't speak the same language at all. I mean, it does, but it has a secondary language that's very prevalent. You know, you got a whole French area. We don't have anywhere that speaks anything but American.
Well, it's also, I have this bad tendency to try to take like bird vision. So like when I think of like Italy or Greece, I'm aware of the fact that they do have parts that are islands, and I do know that there's parts that are mainland, you know, and it's just one of those things. I don't really live in that area. I haven't really studied those maps to that degree or traveled really. So it's really easy for me to get them confused. And for another thing, I won't pronounce certain names unless I see them written in front of me, because there's no chance in hell I'm going to pronounce it right without it. Especially not Italian and Greek. If I see it in front of me, I've got a good chance of pulling off at least some of it, you know. But
your East Coast has islands, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And does Australia have islands off its island?
Yeah. Here's the thing though. If you call Vancouver an island, they're gonna say the same thing to you that I get from England, and they're not wrong, because the landmass isn't small enough to really be an island. But I am coming from a continent, and it's a weird thing when you're visualizing a map. You really can't do that when you're talking about a landmass. But I'm not going to, because it's visualizing the math in my head. I could even work it out. I just don't want to.
All of us have islands then, because we have Hawaii.
Yep. But Hawaii is a series of islands. Like, there are mainlands, but it's also a series of islands. So that's where my brain gets that kind of thing confused.
Well, they call the states mainland, So
Yes.
all of Hawaii are all islands. There's nothing. I mean, there's a main island.
Yeah.
You
It's the
know,
same with Tasmania. I
what's the main
mean,
island?
there's
Is it Oahu?
Tasmania, and then there's the mainland Australia.
Right. What's the biggest island in Hawaii? Is it Oahu?
I don't know.
I'm not
Uh,
sure if it's that one or Maui.
Maui? Hmm.
I'm
I
not.
don't know.
I'm
I
not
don't know.
sure.
I don't know.
Or that Maui could just be really big for tourists.
Yeah. I don't. You know, my parents went to Hawaii. They spent 2 weeks there on vacation when they were younger. And cleaning up my mom's house, there's stuff they brought back from Hawaii. I was like, "Holy, you bring back a whole suitcase full of this crap?" So I've been going through it and getting rid of most of it. And they, th- that's a beautiful place to live. Let me tell you. I'm sure there's plenty of slums and non-touristy areas, I guess you would call them. But the pictures they took were just stunningly beautiful. It was just amazing. They took a picture of an island from another island. I was like, oh, that is so awesome. And they're taking pictures down of people surfing and stuff like that. I was like, wow, that's amazing stuff. Maybe I'll visit there someday. I don't have to worry about. I mean, I have a passport, so I can go international. But maybe as a first attempt, I'll go to Hawaii as my first place to travel to. I've been to most places on the continental U.S. and I've been to Canada.
Mhm.
So I've been on the continent, but I haven't been off the continent yet. We'll
Well,
see.
as the song goes, I've been everywhere, man.
I don't know if you really want to get into this too much, but we didn't really cover Crampy, but I don't know if you really want to cover Crampy because we kind of touched on it about uteruses and cramps and that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
I can walk away from that. But Baby It's Cold, that's from the song
The song.
that people were complaining about being creepy.
If they're complaining about it being creepy, I walked away from work yesterday not buying a little. It was a little wooden picture with basically those wordings on it. It was just a Christmassy thing that I was like, maybe for next year I could hang you on my wall. And yeah, baby, it's cold outside because fuck, it was cold this year.
It's not cold at all. What are you talking about?
Here's the thing. Other women have been calling out the feminists on this one. If you don't know what it means to have a little bit of sexual tension between you and another person, that is a you problem. Right?
Yeah.
That is a you problem. That is not an everybody person problem.
You have to look at it in context too. Back in the day, that wasn't creepy.
No.
The guy is they're already in a relationship.
Yeah.
If you actually read the words of the song, and try not to sing it in your head, but just read it, they're already in a relationship, and she has to go, and he's like, "Don't go, stay here with me. We're already fucking. Let's keep fucking. I like this." Kind of basically is what he's saying, but in context of the time. So
yeah, my interpretation of it was basically she wants to hook up with him, but she's worried about appearances, and so he's saying, "Well, you can just say it was cold, so you had to stay here," and it's like, now it is socially acceptable for you to spend the night because, well, of course you can't go home. It's cold outside. You'd freeze.
Yeah.
And there's that too. Like, there's different ways that you could take it, but they take everything to where they want it to go. Like, this is a fun song, and this was actually back when they were kind of hating on the Christmas shit because everyone was either Jewish or atheist, and I don't care if you're Jewish. You should be Jewish. But it doesn't do anything with Christmas. Like, in all honesty, I understand if you get irritated with the Christmas music because I am absolutely kind of thinking that why hasn't somebody just written something new, period? Because it's always about Christmas sleighs and bells and shit. And I'm like, okay, listen, most people have to pay for a sleigh now. You have to go outside of the city and pay somebody for a sleigh. Okay, nobody's doing the sleigh rides. Most people who even have carts in the city usually get grief because people are afraid for the horse. So,
in all honesty, I didn't hear any Christmas music this year except for the one that I played on our stream last week. Otherwise, I haven't heard anything. I don't really listen to the radio that much, and I don't watch TV, so I've kind of isolated myself from it.
But you also order you also order your stuff, so you get most delivered. So like if you haven't gone to Walmart or the most malls are shut down nowadays anyway.
Plenty of Christmas music. I listened to the entire Twisted Christmas album. I listened to Christmas Time in Hell by South Park, The Lonely Jew from South Park, Mr. Hanky the Christmas Poo, also from South Park. There's a lot of Christmas music that I was listening to.
Yeah, like I said, I'm pretty isolated from all that kind of stuff. So I guess in a
Well,
way,
I deliberately sort out all of those things. So.
Yeah, I don't recognize any of it. But yeah, I mean, for 2 or 3 days there, I had to keep my faucet cracked a little bit to keep the water moving, because I felt that there was a good chance that I would bust some plumbing.
Bust a pipe? Yeah,
bust some plumbing if I didn't keep everything going. I mean, I just, maybe an hour before the stream, I was like, all right, it's 30 outside, I'll just turn it off. But it's been on for 3 days now. And I had to, because of the problem with my water heater, I had to put the temperature in the center, so it was pulling from both sources. Because the water heater is downstairs in the crawl space, and there's nothing protecting it from the temperatures down there. I didn't want to blow the water heater apart either. I had to keep the water coming through that, even though it was warm. So I just turned it off just before the stream. So, and it's 30 degrees outside now. Technically, it could freeze again, but I've never had a problem with it down to about 15 degrees. And after it gets down that low, I start thinking about, well, maybe I should run the water. But it's over for now. It's going to be nothing but uphill as far as temperature is concerned, bringing up the weather app, because we like to talk about weather on the stream. The weather for me is 43 was the high for today. There's still 4 inches of snow on the ground. Tomorrow is 47, 50, 48, 50, 46, 54, 56, 51. So we're going to be in the 50s for a week and a half. So that it shouldn't be much more than a couple more days, and all that snow will be gone. And I don't have to worry too much. Even 50s, it's still going to be a cold shower, but until I get the water heater fixed. But it won't be as bad as it's been. So whatever was causing that blast of cold air, whether it was the polar vortex or just weather that happened to do that, it's at least it's going to be gone for a while, so we have a chance to recover.
But he showed up a little while ago. We do have to call it quits. Gunsky has.
Yeah, I know Gunsky.
Well, I was gonna say I can't really grief on my weather. I mean, I could in front of Costin, because it's always funny to rub in that because sometimes they have the same temperature. You know, I used to have this little game with Blind Girl where I would tell her that it was plus 14. And she'd be like, fuck you, Jen, because it's minus like 5 or something. But it's been weird here. Like, it just keeps going up and down just a little bit. So last week it went from minus 19. No, it went from minus 31 to plus 2 within a day. And then it keeps going like between like minus 7 to plus 5. So you keep getting this little swing up and down. And then yesterday when I was going to work, it decided that it was warm enough, it was just going to rain. And so walking home was like an ice rink. It was terrifying.
I got to imagine Terry kind of smiles when he hears this kind of stuff, because you're talking about arguing between cold and really cold.
Yes.
There's no argument between cold and warm. You're talking about cold and really cold.
Like even if I go with the Fahrenheit, I think it's working out to like minus 14, minus 15 Fahrenheit. When you're talking like minus 36, minus 38, yeah, you're talking about that. So it's like I told everybody else that I've talked to who's dealing with weather, the only thing you can really do outside of making sure that what you're doing is pretty much all you can do, outside of getting professionals in to just double check and whatever you can afford. But when it comes to insulating yourself, the only thing you can really do is layers. Even if you think you look stupid because you're walking around wearing your whole closet, you're still warmer than everybody else. And that's what matters. And it does work. Like, believe me, I walk out in minus 38 and you would think I would die. But yeah, I'm wearing 3 layers of pants. Yeah. I've got 3 layers of sweaters, plus my coat, plus scarves, hats. Sometimes I have 2 hats because I have an extra one with a pair of blinker lights so that I can see when I go to work now. I've got 2 pairs of gloves. Like one has just fingers and one's more like a pair of mitts. And yeah, I feel like I'm carrying like 80 pounds worth of clothing.
Yeah.
But I can stand outside for like 45 minutes and know that I'm not going to die.
The only thing you really have to be concerned about is exposure to skin. That's the real problem. As long as the skin is covered, you're pretty good. My winter gear is a hoodie underneath an overcoat. And I have there's a name for it. A friend bought it for me. It's a hat made of wool that goes all the way over your entire face. It looks like a ski mask almost. But the area where the bottom of your nose, well, I guess the point of your nose to your eyebrows is open. What's that game where the little characters and you have to kill each other? The characters are monocolored, but their eyes are just a big round.
Among Us.
What's that?
Among Us.
No, yeah, that's how that top looks, and it's got a brim on it. That's the only thing that's different. It's got a little brim. And so what I do is to cover as much of that as I can, because that area is still open, is I wear a mask to cover the rest of my nose, and I put glasses on in front of it. It's usually enough to keep me out there for a little while. You can cover your hands with gloves and all that kind of stuff. Put a pair of thermal underwear underneath your jeans. You can survive as long as you don't have your skin exposed to the weather.
It's really the high winds that you got to be worried about.
Spud's got
and
the
also
name. So is Keywordam. Sorry, I'm interrupting. Spud and Keywordam both have the name. It's balaclava.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. That's the thing I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, with and the other one too is kind of dampness. Like if you get wet in cold, it is a bad thing. But high winds is the other one you kind of got to watch out for, because that's why I wear so many layers. It is for the high wind, because I've put on so many layers. It's kind of like putting a tent inside of a tent inside of a tent. So yeah, it is about covering your skin, but that extra layer just cuts off that high wind, because the high wind will break through 2 layers. It will. But my coat is the thing that keeps me really, like I've thought about it. Like I looked at all my layers and I was like, in all honesty, it's the coat that breaks everything, because that coat, as ugly as it is, has down in it. The pure down wall blocks everything. And I can appreciate why people make that. I got lucky with that one. I got that one at a hey ladies, I'm just saying, don't be snotty when it comes to those clothing places where they're like, cheap sales, because I got it for $20. Took it home, found out it had feathers in it, because I was like, why am I leaking feathers everywhere?
I always wanted to own a duster. Even before the Matrix came out, I always thought it was like the coolest outerwear you could possibly own, even in a businessman sense. I think a duster, especially made in the same kind of material that a pea coat's made out of, that tight wound wool that's really, you can't get any air through it at all. I mean, it's just, but that whole look that Neo has with that long jacket that goes all the way to the floor, that's what a duster is. That I always wanted to own. I never have owned one. I've only had jackets and coats, but I always wanted to own a duster. I think they're the coolest outerwear that you can own. They're probably pretty expensive. I can imagine they're like 2 or 3 times what an average coat would be, right? Because they're much longer.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Well, it's also usually a leather coat too, so it's really about the leather that you're going to use.
Was his leather?
I think.
It was? I thought his was like wool, because it doesn't shine at all. And like if you look at Morpheus's is leather. It shines. I wasn't sure that. I mean, unless it was just a different kind of like it was. There's certainly leathers that don't shine. They're like rough. You know what I mean? Maybe it's something like that. But I always thought it was just like cloth, because it flows like cloth. Whenever maybe that's just a special effects. They didn't know how to make it look like it's real, so they
Or it could have been a soft leather too, because it's
Oh,
also
yeah.
about how you treat the leather. Like some leathers, like if you treated it to have an outer coating, like you wanted it to be waterproof, it might have a shine because of the I think it's a
Waterproofing?
wax that they use.
Is it?
Yeah, yeah, I think it's a kind of wax that they use. I don't know specifically. I know my dad's made outfits before because he used to make his own hunting gear, so he's made his own ghillie gear before.
Mhm.
But he has worked with leather before too. So I know there's certain like tans and stains that they use, and I know there's some for waterproofing, but it's also how you cure the hide. Like you can cure a hide and have it be waterproof without adding things to it. They do it a lot for the horse saddles. There's old school French people who still make the old school saddles, these the same way that their ancestors did, and it's really about how you press the leather in. I would bring Snow on one of these days because he works with a lot of leather. He probably knows it better than what I'm describing, certainly, because I'm an outsider talking about what I've seen my dad do. But yeah, there's a lot of things that you can do with leather to make it look shiny without even adding anything to it that much. But there's soft leathers. One of my favorite ones is the one they use for moccasins, like real moccasins, because it's a brain hide tan.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that smoky scent that you get. It is the softest leather that you will get. It is kind of like velvet. So yeah, I could see it being thin enough to kind of fold and sway, like it's almost like a what's it called? Not velvet, but I don't wear a lot of precious cloths, but it's another one. It's not velvet, but I can't remember.
I looked up what Neo was wearing in the Matrix while you're talking, and I got different answers. I said, "What was he wearing?" And it says the first hit says, "To help Neo sartonically channel the one in his duster-length wool coat." Barrett looked at a mix of cultures and religions around the globe, but I said, well, what type of coat does Neo wear in the Matrix? When I search that term, it says black leather trench. Messianic hero Nero, played by Keanu Reeves, wears a sweeping black leather trench with an arsenal of fireworks stitched into its lining. So depending on how you ask the question, the answer changes. Sometimes it's cloth, sometimes it's not. So I don't know, maybe you probably have to ask the costumer, the guy who actually built it. He's the only one who knows for sure, because there's so much CGI in the movie that sometimes it looks one way, sometimes it looks another way, and Google's not helping. So
it could also be something as simple as there's different types of duster coats, because I could see you switching one out for like the summer or for the fall or for the winter. Because a duster, like even in a game, it's kind of a joke. And I don't know if you've ever played 7 Days, Terry. I think you don't. But in 7 days, if you wear a duster in certain areas, it kills you because it overheats you.
Oh.
So I can imagine that they do have dusters that are more meant for like warmer weather.
I have found the
climate.
I have found the answer. It's both, because he wears two different coats in the movies. He wears a trench that goes up to the just below the knee. That's leather. He wears a duster that goes all the way down to his heels. That's wool. So that's what it is. We were both right. He wears both. So that's why there was two answers.
That's usually the case. Like even nowadays, that kind of makes sense. You're always going to have something that's a little bit lighter in the summer. And it also depends on what you're doing too.
Dodging bullets?
Like dodging bullets, or are you wrangling cows? Because your movement changes if you're doing one versus the other.
Yeah, well, cows.
And I have it
spats, right, for cows. That's the term is for the pants, the leather pants. That was called spats.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I haven't done Western stuff in a long time. Like my city was a crossroads as far as towns go. So we do a stampede every year, and it is all the stampede stuff. Like you get our ranchmen who come in. We've got farmers and we do have ranchmen. you know, and they bring in their cattle, and you guys bring yours up too. It is a fair. So, you know, you get Americans who bring their goods up here too. And we compare our animals, and we have little bullfights and little chariot rides and things like that. And it's a fun little fair, but the kids used to dress up and pretend like they were going to wrangle cows, that kind of shit. So I remember trying to tie a hoop. I don't remember how, but I remember trying. And I think they don't do enough of that. Like, they still have that at the park, but in all honesty, like all fairs, it's really about money. So I don't know. And then there was the native area, which was the coolest part because they had teepees everywhere. And I was like, can't we just like charge people to sleep in these?
How are we doing on time, Jen? You okay?
Well, I probably should go in about 9 minutes because that's at least being responsible. And I do have to work tomorrow.
All right. Let's go ahead and get out of here then. I definitely don't want to keep you late. So, thanks, family, as always, for chatting with us tonight. Remember, we're trying to get our Rumble channel up and running. We're still at 36 out of 100. So if you have a Rumble account, go ahead and drop by, look up Minions of the Zoo, and subscribe. Eventually put some content out there. If you don't have a Rumble account, it costs nothing to make one. And we can use the actual people because we need to get to hundreds of broadcasts out there, and I'm really anxious to try doing that. So if you can, go ahead and give us a follow. Eventually we'll live stream there, and your vote will help the Minions grow. As for YouTube, if you can't wait for the next Wednesday show, remember the Minions are live every evening, including weekends, with most shows starting around 11:30 p.m. Eastern, 7 days a week. Host and start times are linked in the description along with the Rumble channel down below. We'll be back next Wednesday at 9 p.m. as usual. I hope you guys enjoyed the show, and we'll see you again next week. Have a great night, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.